So I've been playing around with the live stream format, and yes, I am going to do more live streams in the future where when I have time and I've seen a news story or just something that pops up on social media hair related, I think I'm just going to like talk about that a little bit. I wasn't trying to be clickbaity. Last night, I was just really excited that Brad Mondo actually talked about henna. And I was like, I watched halfway through the video and okay, he's definitely a conventional hairstylist, but I was really surprised halfway through the video. He is vegan though. That is another thing I have to say about Brad Mondo. It's pretty awesome. He's plant-based, he's vegan, although he uses boar bristle brushes, so I don't think he really has like and a lot of vegans don't. A lot of vegans aren't worried about that. But I just thought that is pretty cool. And he was saying, like, for people that have allergies to henna, and I kind of was thinking, oh, he seems open to it. And in India, actually, or just in some more, you know, larger cities that are influenced by Ayurvedic hair care, there are salons that actually do henna. I mean, you can do it at home, but there's actually salons in India that do henna application. Although people in India, they know how to do this, and a lot of people have different recipes for how they do henna. So I just thought that was cool, like just sharing with you guys different news related things to hair care, but more like in the long hair realm because we're always hearing about like standard hair care, but it's just kind of cool when somebody that's not mainstream says, "Oh, like henna might be a good alternative," and I'm like, "That's pretty awesome." So anyway, what I wanted to talk about today before I leave for work is just in praise of braids. I'm getting ready. I'm hurrying, and the one good thing about braids is, yes, if I got up earlier, ideally I could comb out my whole hair from start to finish. That's most ideal. But like, let's say you're kind of running out of time. I'm not gonna like break and snap my hair to just force a brush through it. And to me, that's just always so painful when I see people do it. But the thing I love about braids is even if you sleep with a braid in, I feel like sometimes in the morning it might not look perfect on top. Like some people are really bothered by a braid not being completely like your hair completely smoothed down on top. But I feel like that's a little obsessive in a way because if you have wavy hair, curly hair, your hair doesn't necessarily want to stay slicked back all the time perfectly. And I don't want to put hair gel. I don't want to put hairsprays in my hair just to make it do something like that. Plus, repetitive use of hair gel does diminish like it weakens your hair follicles. So what you're doing when you're combing your hair like this is you're just kind of like or what I'm doing, you're not doing this. You're giving your hair a scalp massage, and then, like, I just really like this comb, by the way, just my tooth comb, and I just kind of work my hair back down. And another thing too is I actually think henna. This is just my take on it. After you've done henna, like the results are better a few days in because like it takes henna a few days to oxidize. Like you're not gonna see the final result. Like I have dark brown to black hair. My hair is an in-between shade. So I use henna just for strengthening. Hi, how you doing? For strengthening and just like to add a little bit of red highlights in the sunlight because I just feel like it gives my hair some fun color in a way because I don't want to dye my hair, but I love the natural properties of henna, right? So after a few days, I feel like it's oxidized, it's done its thing, and I'm kind of liking the way it's looking this time. It's a little bit better in sunlight than I anticipated, but that's henna. Like it can do the thing about henna is it's not a chemical dye, right? It's an herb, so it's gonna do what it wants to do. Like, if you don't want to do henna on your hair, there's other things you can do. Like I've heard people do fruit juices and different herbs and stuff too. So just if you want to do hair rinses. One hair rinse I don't know that I will try again is the aloe vera oil because I didn't like that. Like that just kind of clumped up my hair. I wasn't the biggest fan. Like I like okay, I actually like this Aussie conditioner detangling spray that has aloe in it already, but with fresh aloe, I think the mistake is yes, I didn't puree it and I just scooped it out and I kind of just did it by hand. You probably need to filter it and scoop it. And yes, that's probably user error on my end too. Maybe if you do puree it, I mean, I could give aloe another round, another go, I guess. I have thought about that. We'll see. This is what I thought. I'm not doing henna for a few more months, but another thought was henna pureed, sifted with henna, like I don't know, and coconut milk. That could be an interesting combination. I don't know. That might be a little too sticky. That might be a little bit too much of a sticky wicket, as the British used to say. I think that's not modern usage, but I love archaic usage language. It's just more fun sometimes. So sometimes when you're ready to start braiding, you just need to get your hair nice and flip down. Best ability possible to get going soon. And I've been like, I've still had lamb stuck in my head. I'm like, ah, lots of lamb songs. So I don't know, a lamb thing. Mhm. I don't recognize everybody in a mask anymore. Like sometimes people will come up to me and they're like, "How are you doing?" And honestly, I don't know. I don't know who you are because like just like I have no clue. So I can't pretend to recognize somebody or to know somebody if I don't recognize them. Like if I can't see their face, like so I don't know if anybody else has that problem, but I can't recognize everybody. I'm just like sometimes like if you're at the store or something, it's like I can try and place it, but just like just said hi because I mean I have this weird kind of thought process memory. Like sometimes I wake up like at 5 in the morning and I'll just recall something. It could have happened like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but in vivid detail. And it's just really strange. Like I can't remember my dreams at night, but just something like when I wake up. And I always realize it's from not having slept enough. But I have like other people, I know other people are so like they're very good at managing to go to sleep early, but on days that I have to be places early, I'm not always to bed early. And I mean, I'm gonna try to be better about it. I'm just like, yeah, I know it's from sleep deprivation. I'm just like, it's just kind of weird. I'm just like, why am I thinking about this right now? And sometimes like a memory will just come flooding back to me, like, and it'll be so visceral and so vivid. It's just really weird, but that usually happens when I'm sleep deprived. I mean, I could research why that is, but it was kind of weird. I'm like, why am I thinking about this? And then I kind of just had to snap myself back into reality. I'm like, that long time ago. I don't know why I'm thinking about this. It was just, and it wasn't even a bad thing. It was just something kind of more random and mundane. Nothing like really important or significant. And that's the funny thing too. It'll always be like just some little random event. It won't be like this big major event. But that's why I think sometimes, like when people say that they've forgotten things and then things come flooding back to them, I totally get what they're talking about because I have experienced that. But it's always with mundane things at 5 in the morning when I'm sleep deprived. That makes any sense. Like if I haven't gone to bed early, it's never anything like super significant. Like, but I haven't. Honestly, I've encountered interesting things, but I haven't had like a life shattering experience. Like the people I'm talking about are people that have might have witnessed a crime or like some sort of trauma. Like I've never had anything like that in my life, so I guess that's the reason mundane experiences come flooding back to me. Just it's kind of funny. Just like okay, like why that? I don't know. It might just be something like a conversation I had with someone that I haven't even seen in the longest time, and then I'll just start thinking about it. And I'm like, well, that was a really long time ago. That's definitely not relevant right now. It just pops in your head, and you're like, I must be sleep deprived again. And that's another thing too. Like, it's good to have habits like going to bed early and things like that. It's very beneficial. But sometimes, to be honest with you, like when I have an opportunity, I think it's easier to take a nap because it's not always easy to go to bed early or just go to bed early if you want to. But here's another thing. This is just so random. One time I was kind of tired from work and my air conditioner had broke when I lived out in the desert and I had to call maintenance to come fix it. And the maintenance guy like was telling me he thought I was falling asleep early because the air conditioning was out. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, you can't go to sleep that early." And it made me feel weird. I'm like I can go to sleep whenever I want. Like I don't need your permission. He's like, "This is too early." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, you don't know. I get up really early. I don't know, like maybe his schedule's different than mine, but like I'd gotten up early that day and I hadn't slept much." And I'm like, but he was just convinced that I was falling asleep because of the air conditioner. Like he thought I was like heat exhaustion. And I'm like, no. But that was another thing too that kind of this is not flaying back, I bet it just comes back to me just like when you live out in the desert, I remember all the issues I had with this air conditioner and it wasn't good, but one time it was 115 degrees outside, okay? I lived in Blythe, 115, and I was on a second floor apartment and the air conditioner broke. And actually the apartment manager guy's like, I can pay for you to stay in a hotel or you could stay with me for the night. And I'm like, no, that's really okay. It was hot in my apartment, but I didn't feel like it was that hot. I just opened all the windows and I drank cold water and I was watching like a movie. Like I was watching Wedding Crashers and it was so funny. Like I was like, yeah, it's really hot. I want the air conditioner fixed, but um yeah, I'm not dying. But another thing too about me, I have a super high heat tolerance and I don't love air conditioning. I actually, when I'm by myself, I only turn on the air conditioner if it's above like 95 to 100 degrees. Like, I'm good with open windows, fans. I don't really like air conditioning all that much. And other people, well, especially in California, even in the winter, in January, you could get on a bus and it'll be kind of just temperate outside and they'll be blasting the AC inside. And it's always year round thing. Like, I just feel like, okay, with California, I know we're warm all the time. It's like 85 degrees in January sometimes, but I just don't want to run the air conditioner when it's 85 degrees outside. I think that's excessive. But most people, they start running their air conditioner, I don't know, when it gets above 75 or something. And I'm like, okay, no. You don't need air conditioning when it's 75 degrees. Well, I don't know. I can't speak for other people. But yeah, I just had like random thoughts come back about air conditioning breaking and people getting like, annoyed that I didn't want to go stay at a hotel because the air conditioner was broken. It's like, okay, I just don't like it was uncomfortable. I asked him to fix it because yeah, you can't live in 115-degree heat without air conditioning forever, but it wasn't like I needed to vacate the apartment that night. Hi. Like, honestly. But then again, I have to remember who I am. My dad used to like to go hiking in the desert, and we went on a camping trip to Death Valley in the summer, and that was hot. But when you go up into the mountain part of Death Valley, it cools off by like 25 degrees or so. So it'd be hot if you went down into Furnace Creek, but once you went up into the hills, it wasn't that much warmer than where I grew up. And we went camping in the desert so much, and I just, as a kid, like we used to be hiking and doing all that, and I find it kind of funny that now my dad's older, like he was the one who he hates the heat now, and he always wants to be in air conditioning, and he would be complaining if stores didn't have the air. Like, he literally said to one store, like, why don't you have the air conditioning on? And I'm like, you know what? They do have the air conditioning on. You just don't feel it because it's not going to be centralized. But I'm like, who goes to stores for air conditioning? But then I realized, oh, a lot of people do. Like, I know there's cooling centers. Like, that's a thing in California, like cooling centers where, yes, it gets really hot and you can go sit somewhere in the air conditioning. But this is just me. I don't want to do that, like, ever. Like, if I didn't have air conditioning at home or something, I wouldn't seek out like a public place to go sit in air conditioning. It's not that enjoyable to me. Like, I guess I don't like forced air that much. Like, I only use it, like, okay, I only use air conditioning when it's super, super hot, like, to where, like I said, 95, 100 plus if I'm by myself. And I would only use it for a bit to like cool down the apartment, and then I turn it off. But other people I know, like my mom, she'd be like, well, if you get too cold in air conditioning, just put on a sweater. And I'm like, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to make my apartment so cold that I'm going to put on a sweater? I'm like, no. Like, that's the thing that's so nice, like, about just being yourself. If you don't like air conditioning, you don't have to turn it on constantly. Like, you can turn it on if you want to cool things down, but constant air conditioning, no. And then, like, I just could never relate. Like, years ago, there was this girl, she was just sitting over an air conditioning shaft, and she's like, oh, it's so fresh. And everybody would always be telling me, oh, at night, I blast the air conditioning so I can sleep under sheets and blankets. And call me weird, but I miss, like, the mountains where you could open the window and just, like, be wrapped up in a minimal blanket. Like, I don't want all this forced air. But everything I enjoyed as a kid, like, even my parents now, they're like, oh, we love air conditioning, forced air, and we get hot. And, like, the only time I get hot, though, I do get warmer than I used to, is wearing the mask. Like, I will tell you this, I always, always used to need a sweater. And I will wear a sweater if I'm outside walking without a mask on. But if I'm in a building wearing a mask, having to do anything more than just move around a bit, I get so overheated in it that I don't have to wear a sweater anymore. And it could be 40 degrees outside. And I literally don't have to wear a sweater because the mask has just heated you up. Like, I guess that's the only benefit to the mask I see, is if you're really cold and you don't want to wear a sweater, it'll warm you up like nobody's business. But you can only really do this, like, for me anyway, like when it's cold. Like, if it's really hot, then it's pretty bad. Like, it's something else. But yeah, so I don't wear sweaters as much anymore, because if I have to wear a mask, I literally can wear any kind of summer outfit I want. Well, it's 85 degrees outside, but even with air conditioning, because the mask is just going to warm you up. Like, if you move around more than just light, it just does. Like, for me, like, I don't know, there's just something about that. Like, and I'm always somebody that was cold easily, but not with a mask on. That's kind of out the window. I find that so interesting. Like, something about the mask. I'm sure there's a scientific explanation for why, but just in my case, it really heats me up, very much so. But speaking of air conditioning too, sometimes, like, if it was too cold in a building, I would need to go for what I termed at lunch called a warm up walk, like, because just I think, like, it's not, maybe I don't get as cold as I once did, but I still get cold easily. But sometimes I would just get so cold, I would feel like a popsicle, because once again, I'm like, it's July. I don't want to be bundled up in 10,000 sweaters. And I wouldn't always bring my sweater with me in the past. And they'd be, you'd be in a building and they're blasting the air conditioning. So at lunch, I'd always go for what I termed a warm up walk, like, where I would need that hour to, like, thaw out, to just be outside walking, like, to just warm up and feel good again. Like, and then I could be okay for a few more hours, like, in air conditioning. Like, warm up walks were my thing. And I don't think I'm the only one either, because I know some people, they say they actually go sit in their hot cars in July, because some people like the heat in California. Like, you have a lot of people, they really hate the heat, okay? But there's a small percentage of us, and we don't love air conditioning. And I've bonded with people before over detesting air conditioning. Is that funny? I don't know. Like, we'll just be like, oh my gosh, it's so cold. And they're like, yeah. And it's like, that's the weirdest thing to bond with people over. But I don't know. I'm just like, yeah. And I have long hair. And, people always say long hair is going to overheat you in the summertime. But it never did. Like, I walk in the summer, 105 plus degree heat. I've done it, okay? I've done it. I've ran, like when I used to be a runner. Well, my hair wasn't as long back then, but it was fairly long enough in the summertime and never overheated me. I think I just have, like, most people don't, but I just do have a super high heat tolerance. Like, I think it just never really gets to me that much. But I attribute a lot of that to when I was younger because, we used to go camping in the desert. But then again, like, when we did that, I don't think my mom and sisters tolerated it as well. Like, I think they thought it was really hot. Like, they needed a lot of icy drinks, and I didn't find myself like reaching for icy drinks as much as other people. So yeah, I just don't like, and a lot of people in California, because we don't have a real winter. Let's be real, okay? California doesn't have a real winter, even though, like, okay, it snowed a couple weeks ago. Boo hoo. There's still some snow in the mountains, but it's warm again. And it might be cold at night, but this is California, okay? It's, if you see my last video, I'm wearing a tank top in January, okay? This is our winters are a cakewalk. They're nothing. Like, so cold weather to people in California is like 40 degrees, which is warm, like in the spring in many parts of the country. But I could never. That's why, even though it costs less to live in other parts of the country, I don't think I could, because I wouldn't be happy. Like, I wouldn't be myself if I had to live somewhere where it snowed all the time and it was really cold. And that's kind of the trade off. Like, if I leave California, I want to go to Hawaii. That's where I want to go. I'm headed to a warm state, somewhere warm. I don't want to go live in a cold climate. I just don't. Like, snow is pretty, but I'm not like a snow bunny. I'm not somebody that wants to go play in the snow. Like, I want to go walk somewhere warm. I kind of love the tropical thing, like money no option Hawaii. Like, just seems like for me right now. Like, I keep thinking about Hawaii lately. I'm just like, yeah, if money were no option, somewhere like that, that's where I'd like to be. And I'm saying ideally. I'm not saying, like, look, if you really want to move to Hawaii, you can make it happen. Like, I know, like, if I really want to move to Hawaii, I could make that happen. I just like I'm just saying ideally, I like to dream. Like, if I could have both, if I could live here and there, like, and some people really hate that. Some people like to hate it when people talk about idealization. But I'm just like, I don't know. It's fun for me. I like to think about, like, what if, like, remember this vacation you took? Like, my favorite vacation was in Hawaii. I love Hawaii. I love tropical climates. That was my grape jelly jam. Um, I don't really like want to go visit the mountains and play in the snow. It's just not who I am. Like, some people though, what was I gonna say? Like, yeah, I grew up in the mountains. Some people, they really love that. They love shoveling snow. I don't miss any of that. But also too, you have to keep in mind, I didn't live like on a flat surface. It wasn't just like hilly, it wasn't just like gentle. Like, when I'm talking about, even though it wasn't a heavy snow, this is 5,300 feet up to 6,000 feet. So it's a mile above sea level, right? And not only that is it a mountain, but these mountains have what you call hairpin turns, like some of the most windy roads in the world. And they don't really clear them, right? Okay. And people don't believe me, but I'm like, you have to wear chains. And people are like, no, that's severe. You don't have to put chains in your car. And I'm like, no, literally, they had, when it used to snow more, they had something called chain control. Okay. And if you didn't have chains on your car, they had a service where, hey, we'll charge you $20. You want some chains? We have them. Like, they literally did. So you could try, You could try driving in the mountains without chains. Some people did, and you are slippery, slidey on a rink. We were in a bus once, okay? That nearly went off the side of the mountain. It was grinding its wheels and like just because it had to go the long way around. So it doesn't snow all the time up there. Like it's not like Colorado or Montana where it's a heavy snow, but when it snows, it hits hard, and due to the roads, yeah, it can be dangerous, and people do get in really bad accidents, and it's just interesting. So yes, you get snow, but it's not just like, oh, like it's kind of hilly and you can walk outside, and it's not like other parts of the country. Like you literally would have to cancel school, and people would get so mad about that because the school's not getting their funding that day. And if they didn't cancel school, some people, teachers included, were like, "This is crazy. We're not taking our kids out of school, like sending our kids to school and like risking our cars and our lives just to get to school that day." And there would always be some people, they got mad. They were like, but we want that week off in May instead of school just ending earlier in June. Like they would want. It was weird. Just some weird things about public school. I'm just like, you should have called a snow day that day. Like really, just for the money, okay? That's what a lot of it was about. Was public education. Like if you didn't write the note saying that you were sick, you'd get the unexcused. I just remember being a kid and like all these things. I'm like, huh, that's interesting. Like, and that was kind of stressful as a kid. Like now, so I do totally get like why parents are stressing out. Like if they're teaching their kids from home on Zoom or whatever platform it is that and I've heard sometimes parents get in trouble if the kid's not there for the lesson, and I'm just like, how does that work? Because I'm thinking it's got to be complicated, but uh, I'm glad I don't have kids in this era. Like that would kind of be hard. So yeah. Anyway, I'm just talking about random stuff because this is a random channel and not always random, but just at the moment it is random. But yeah, I'm pretty random. I will admit. But here's my braid. Anyhow, if you want to see the full. And yes, have a nice day. Goodbye.